What's up, bros? Welcome to the Men of Mind podcast. I'm Omar Bravo, and this is the podcast all about badass Knack bros and their journeys through life. From the bad beats and the lessons learned to the mountaintop successes and advice they'd give their younger selves, this is your chance to get to know these bros better. In this episode, I talk with Allan Darte, Untitled Chapter Gamma Class number 30 from Santa Clara University. Orale. There he is.
What's good?
Oh my gosh. You don't change, brother. You look the exact same.
You know,
Good for you.
what can I say, brother? Having babies young,
That's a secret.
I guess one might say.
Well, that's fantastic then. I tell you, I was thinking about it. It's been at least 20 years. At least 20 years since I've seen you.
Probably the last time I was at a Knack Fest almost.
Yeah, something like that. Probably 2000, 2001 maybe.
Oh no, I've done a couple since.
Oh,
Where have you been?
I
Where have you
haven't.
been is the question.
Not in California, that's for sure. It's good to see
Right.
you, brother. It's good to see you, man.
You too, bro. It's, you know what? I always talk a little mess, but I was thinking about it and I was like, man, I don't know if I fit into the men of Knack category, bro. These guys are
The men of mind, the men of
men of-
mind.
these guys are doing big things out here.
That's one of the funnest things. So when I started thinking about this idea came to me, and I acted on it immediately.
Mhm.
And the whole idea was just, man, I'll run across somebody's name or I'll see somebody on social or something, and I'm like, God, I want to catch up with them, but it's just kind of awkward to call somebody and be like, "Hey, tell me everything," type of thing.
Right.
And so when I came up with this idea, it's like, the first question is, well, is anybody ever going to listen? Is anybody going to care? Is anybody? And when I thought about it, it's like, I don't give a shit. I want to do this for me. The other night, I had Oscar Banuelos on, and we talked for about an hour and a half, but about 30 minutes in, our connection cut, and then when we got back in, it didn't record anymore. So it lost the
Oh.
last hour. And so initially I was like, oh, I was pretty pissed off. And then I thought about it. It was like, wait, why am I doing this? It's like, yeah, do I want to benefit the bros? Sure. But really, why am I doing this? It's because I want to catch up with folks and I want to hear people's stories, and I got to hear his whole story. So, when it comes down to it, it's like, hey, do I wish that the technology wouldn't have failed us? Yeah, I wish it wouldn't have. But I still heard the story and I can recount the story.
Yeah.
And I got to catch up with Oscar, and I got to see him, and I got to hear his laugh, and I got to hear his legit, bad beats and good times. And it's like, that's what it's really about. And so as far as, so and so made $1 million or whatever, like that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
This is about me and you reconnecting, and really, I think that learning each other's stories again from a far more mature and enlightened perspective than when I was 18 and I had the first chance to get to know you and hear your story. I was in a very different place than I am today.
Right.
And so I feel like I have the opportunity, a second chance, if you will.
Mhm.
And it's like, ooh, I got to take advantage of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's a good point, because everybody's got, all of us have progressed too, so the stories have matured and people's lives have matured. So it's a good thing, man. I'm proud of you for getting it going.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for coming on, man. And let's
No doubt.
let's get this rolling, man.
For sure. What you got?
So first question is for the same question for everybody, and it is where are you at? Are you married with kids, or are you single and ready to mingle? If in 20 years, a whole bunch of stuff could have happened. So
Yeah. Definitely married, happily married. Matter of fact, we'll be celebrating 20 years this year.
wow.
And so I have 4 kids. I got my son, he's Jalen, he's about to turn 21.
Wow.
And you can do the math. Yes, we got married after he was born. Um, and then I got Jade, who will turn 20. Excuse me, Jade. Jade will turn 19. GS 17. Imani 10 this year.
So is that one boy, three girls?
Yep.
And your youngest is how old?
10.
Oh, okay. Okay, 10. I thought
Yeah, just about to turn 10.
all right. So my oldest is 9. I got 5,
You
but
got 5 and
but
oh,
but my oldest is 9.
oh, yeah.
So
Bless you. No wonder
yeah.
you're bald.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that happened a long time ago. Happened a long time
Dang.
ago.
So what's the mix up? What do we got?
I got 3 girls and then 2 boys. So 9, 7, 5 for the girls, and then 2 and well, he's about to be 3, and then a 9-month-old right now.
And
So
boys. So
yeah,
3
3
girls and
girls,
then
2
2 boys.
boys. Yeah,
Good stuff, man.
that's wild, man. To think. So you got a what'd you say? 21, 19, and
21,
17,
19, 17, and
and
10.
then a gap. You had that
Yeah,
7 year gap.
we had a big gap there. You know, all of them were surprises. We weren't about that planning type stuff, but um, the interesting thing about Imani is that I actually had like that instinct of like, oh, I think we should have another baby. Like my wife wasn't even thinking about it, and so it's being a parent has been, I mean, well, as you know, it's one of the most fulfilling, gut wrenching things you can do.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's been super worth it, and very, very proud of all my kids and what they do and what they stand for. You know what I mean?
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Sir.
Not everybody gets to say that, I mean,
Right. Yeah, we've been spoiled, dude. Our kids are awesome. We always, promoted heaven over Harvard, right? So the most
there you go.
important thing for us in raising our kids has always been, more about how their heart and how they treat people. Of course, we want them to achieve and pursue excellence, but um, we've never like forced a certain, you know, way of on them. Kind of let them figure it out for themselves and make their own decisions, and it's worked out for us.
I dig it, man. I dig that heaven over Harvard. I not heard that one. The one we use is we say character over calculus,
There you
but
go.
but same thing, same
Pretty much
thing.
the same idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So with your oldest going to be 21, like I mean, theoretically speaking, you could be a grandpa soon. Theoretically.
Theoretically, that is not happening right now. No, but he's actually in a committed relationship. They've been together a long time. They talk about having children, but that's not they know that it's more, 4 or 5 years down the line.
Is
But they're definitely in a very committed relationship. I could see them having children together, which is kind of cool.
is being a grandpa something that you think about, look forward to, or is
Oh,
that
for sure. I'm
yeah?
I'm ready, bro. Flip flops with socks and for sure. I mean, because the thing is with being a grandparent, right? Like you get to spoil them and send them home. That's the best part.
Sugar them up
But
and send them to bed.
yeah, no, and I think well, we really enjoyed parenting. I mean, it's been obviously it's harder, I think, in the sense that you have to have boundaries and stuff like that. But we've really enjoyed, raising children together, and so having grandchildren is very exciting to me. Of course, like I said, I'm okay with waiting. I don't
Sure.
want them to rush into that, but I definitely would look forward to that. Because I've always loved kids, um, but when they're your own and I can only imagine when you have your legacy, you see your legacy for the first time, it's gonna be deep.
Yeah, hopefully I'm super far away from it for a while.
You've got a lot of time on your
I
hands for
hope
sure.
so. I hope so.
Yeah.
When my wife and I were early on in our marriage, folks would often ask, they're like, "Oh, so do you guys want kids? Do you want kids?" And at the time, neither of us did. But we always,
Mm.
but our answer was always, it's like, well, we want grandkids. So I guess
I
something's
guess you're
got
gonna kind of have to, right?
so something's got to give sooner or later. So,
That's funny.
hey, and are all your kids still at home?
Yep.
Everybody's still at
Yep.
home.
For now, I mean, we're like doing everything we can to keep them close. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Jalen has been more. I think he's been more receptive to it. He's good with it. Jade and Gia are a little bit more like ready
Ready to go.
to empty the nest. So we'll see. But yeah, in this culture climate that we're in right now, man, it's like if you don't have to be out there and paying rent and what have you, then take advantage of it. So we're just encouraging him to save up and figure out what he really wants to do. Right now, he's doing. My son Jalen's the oldest, so he's been doing his thing. He works full time. Um, he decided he wasn't going to go right into school. So he's like 2 years out. He got hit with that bug. Oh, I'm gonna take a year off, right? And so I was like, all right, well, I'm warning you. And so he's starting to. I think he's starting to maybe think about going back, but he's making grown man money now. So it's hard to go back to school and put yourself through all that when you're making grown man money and you don't have to pay grown man bills. So,
The sweet spot, man. The
yeah,
sweet
for
spot.
sure. And we're good with keeping them as close as we can, because we just want our kids to stay as close as possible for as long as possible.
So where's home right now? Where you at?
We live in Roseville, so it's like kind of like even the outskirts of Roseville. So if you're on your way to Reno off the 80,
Oh
take
wow.
65, we're out there.
Outside of Reno, like how far outside
No,
Reno?
no, we're outside of Sacramento on the way to
Oh, on the
Reno.
way to
Like
Reno.
so,
Okay.
when you're taking 80 to Reno and you go
Okay.
through Sacramento, you pass through Roseville
Gotcha. Gotcha.
on the
So
way out.
outside of Sac. Now,
Yeah,
now remind me, was Sac where you grew up?
it was. Yep, I grew up Sacramento born. I was actually born in Fairfield because my parents were military, so
Okay, I didn't know
we
that.
were supposed to be born I was supposed to be born in Sacramento, and then they had to move my mom to Travis for my birth, but I was raised in Sacramento, and then got to go to Santa Clara. And as soon as we graduated, my wife's family decided they wanted to move back to Sacramento.
Okay, so your wife was in Santa Clara too? Is that where you guys met?
Well, she didn't go to Santa Clara, but her like it's funny because she's the youngest of five sisters,
Okay,
and two of the older sisters went to Santa Clara,
nice.
and so we actually met because we had friends, we shared friend groups, so we crossed paths that way, and she was going to Dienza at the time.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah, and then man, we haven't spent any significant time apart since we got together that in that time.
Yeah.
I've just been like connected at the hip, and um, it's been awesome. Marriage is beautiful, but it's especially cool when you're with someone who's just as committed as you are, um, and you're with someone who's like you kind of look up to. Like, dang, I wish I worked as hard as her. You know what I'm saying? So
Both given 100%, right? It's
for
not 50
sure,
50, it's 100.
it's 100 for sure. But yeah. So we met in Santa Clara, but she wasn't in school there at the time.
So you said she had five, she youngs to five sisters.
Mhm.
Did you have siblings? I never knew if you had.
I do actually, but is my brother. He's a half brother, but my brother he's 12 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
So uh, my dad had a son with another woman. He actually is staying with us right now.
Is that right?
As
So
a
you
matter of
got
fact, kind of helping him out a little bit.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
So, but 12 years your junior.
Yeah.
All right. So when
He's
you guys,
bigger than me, but it's kind of like me and Fabio. You know what I'm saying? Fabio, I was his big brother, but he's bigger than me. You know what I'm saying? He's like he's a big dude. Good guy
yeah,
though.
yeah. That's so were you guys close when you guys were growing up at all?
No, no, actually weren't because so my childhood was pretty, let's say, you ever heard of the phrase ACEs? It's kind of a clinical phrase for adverse childhood experiences. They call them. So I had an adverse childhood for sure. Um, my dad, my dad, heroin addict, in and out of jail. My mom died of cancer when I was 8. So, I was bouncing around to different people. Landed with my grandma. And then by the time my brother was born, I didn't really know about him until I was probably, let's see, like 17. So he was like
Okay.
5. So I didn't really meet him until he was 5. And, I was a senior in high school. So like we didn't really know each other that well. And then I didn't reconnect with him again until he was 17
Mhm.
from there. So like another 12 years. And then by that time, like his childhood was adverse as well. Only difference was, I got placed with my grandma who put me into private school. He got placed into group homes and foster care system, so he ended up having to fight the system. And I kind of got lucky and landed in private school and going that route. So
So
two totally
so
different childhoods.
when did you go live with your grandma? How old were you at that point?
I was 12.
Okay.
Yeah. So my dad, it was like the last time that I would be removed from his custody. And so thankfully my grandma stepped up, my mom's mom. Anytime grandparents step up to take care of kids, yeah, that's a blessing, right? Because they're not, we were just joking about that. Like, I look forward to being a grandparent
Yeah.
because I want to raise them at a distance. I don't want to have to take them and do the actual parenting part. So I'm grateful that my grandma was willing to be a parent again. She wasn't really that good at it because she was also pretty abusive, physically and emotionally and whatnot. But she did what she could. She did the best she could, and it kept me out of the system,
Yeah.
which I think was what is most important.
So as a 12-year-old, you're sixth going into seventh grade. What was,
Hmm.
were you still there in Sac?
Yeah, we stayed. So my grandma lived in Arden Arcade. So let's see, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Utah.
Utah. Is that where you're back to now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, no wonder your connection's not working right, bro. Nah. So I don't know Utah very well, but you probably remember, like, okay, think of Santa Clara, San Jose, Milpitas,
Sure.
kind of thing, right? So like San Jose is like Sacramento. It's
Sure.
like the urban kind of center, but it has lots of little
Sure.
suburbs to them, within it. And so my grandma lived in kind of cross town from where my dad was. Better neighborhood, but still kind of, middle class. But she was able to get me into a private Catholic school.
Okay.
And you know, that was what really kind of changed my trajectory.
Yeah, that sounds like a big change where which obviously that's what led you to Santa Clara, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because
And,
once I went to Jesuit, you know, it was either St. Mary's or Santa Clara. You know what I mean? Jesuit route for me though.
how did what were you into when you were in junior high and high school? Was athletics always a big part of your life?
You know, it was always a part of my dream life. You know, I was never really a decorated athlete. Um, in that, you know, like by the time I got to presentation, so sixth grade, is when I started at the Catholic school, and you know, I played all the sports there, and we were okay. We weren't like, you know, we weren't undefeated type teams, you know, but we were okay. And then when I got to Jesuit, um, it was a lot more competitive, all boys Catholic school, you know, so it became a lot more competitive. And so, you know, I didn't play basketball, which was my actual first love, was basketball. I didn't get to play that while at Jesuit. Um, I was a runner, track and cross country. That's what I excelled at. But really, what I was into most as a young person, well, I was an altar boy.
Yeah.
I would say I was an award-winning altar boy. You know, so you know, always involved in something around the church. So I really embraced Catholicism and the church and campus ministries uh, in middle school and high school. And then when I got to Jesuit, I was involved in a lot of leadership. You know, student government. Um, I helped found our Black Student Union as a freshman, and so you know, I was involved in leadership from the very beginning. And then sports was always, like I said, kind of like the glory dream. You know, like, oh, I wish I could be the guy that everybody, you know, adores because he scored the winning touchdown or hit the winning basket. You know, but I was more I was more the gritty guy behind the scenes, you know, doing a lot of the. I actually received what was called the Ignatian Award.
Hmm.
It's like the service award my
Hmm.
senior year. So I was well known for my leadership and service.
And then, so it sounds like for the majority of junior high and high school, you stayed out of trouble.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, I had a couple. I had a couple incidences, a couple situations.
but nothing out of the ordinary, though.
Nothing
Yeah.
that took me, yeah, nothing that took me off the path or disrupted my path to college. Um, that again was what I give the most credit to my grandma for. You know, putting me in that environment because I was always a smart kid, but you know, once I was in that environment and you know the college preparatory, you know, where it's like everything is just college. You're thinking about college and talking about college. That was good for me, and it set my direction. Um, so I was pretty, you know, goody two shoes ish
Yeah.
in school, all through middle school and high school, and I'd say probably even college, with the exception of a few different situations.
Sure. What would you, how would you look back on your time at Santa Clara in comparison to your time in high school? Because some folks you talk to them and they say, "Oh man, if I could do high school, I'd go back to high school all over again, or I'd go back to
Mhm.
college all over again." But it's usually not. One was usually better than the other.
Right. I don't, you know, for me, I felt like one wasn't better than the other. I definitely enjoyed high school because um, it brought me out of my shell
Hmm.
and I was able to do things and grow as an individual, grow as a person. And then college, I wouldn't, you know, the only thing I would change about college is probably being a little more focused and a little more dedicated to getting good grades. and being, a better student. But I got the most out of college, man. I made some amazing friends. I joined, my experience with New Alpha Capital was like a game changer, for me. And so life, I gained so much life experience through Santa Clara, um, that I wouldn't want to change it for the world, So they evolved, right? Like my high school experience was awesome, and then college was like even better, and certainly wouldn't want to. I think if I had to pick one to go back to, I'd go back to high school. That way, I could do them both over.
It's one way to work the system.
You know what I mean?
So what was some of the motivation for you to join Knack? Who did you pledge your freshman year?
I did. So we're recording.
Yeah. No need to incriminate anybody.
No. I could tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth. But so actually, it's a really great story, man. So Manuel Ruiz, right, was my pledge director that year, and he was actually the dorm room, the RA.
What dorm were you in?
And I was in Campese.
Okay.
And I was starting to get into a little trouble. I was breaking the dorm rules, drinking and smoking and partying and stuff. And I had actually had like a run-in with the law because of this. I went into this room in the basement I wasn't supposed to. And I just remember Manny, like he held it down for me.
Because he was the RA. He was
RA. You know what I mean? So he could have thrown the book at me. You know what I mean? He could have kicked me out. He could have done a lot of things, but he really kind of he really worked with me. And then it was right around pledge time. He's like, "Hey, you want to come pledge this organization?" And I had never considered pledging because the only thing I knew about fraternities was like Black fraternities. To me, it was like black or white.
Mm-hmm.
It was like traditional Greek or, a Black fraternity. And like, I wasn't going to do traditional Greek because I definitely didn't fit in there. But I also wasn't going to do, a Black fraternity because what I've heard from them, I wasn't trying to, go through any physical, I wouldn't let anybody put their hands on me kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So, what I ended up doing is he went to a couple of pledge of events, and I was like, okay, it's kind of cool. Because I was at first thinking it was just going to be all Latinos, like it was just going to be all Mexicans. Like I wasn't going to fit in at all. But we had a really diverse group in my pledge class. And then, Manny it was like beyond race. I really appreciated race and culture, right? It was beyond that for me with him. He was just a good dude. And I noticed that a lot of the other guys were the same way, So I ended up taking a leap of faith and doing it, man, because I needed something to get me focused and out of trouble. And I was attracted to the fact that I had to have that we had study hall. So my grades went up, I was on housing probation, so it kept me from getting in trouble so that I wouldn't get kicked out of the dorms. You know what I'm saying? Like it just really set me straight, bro. And the community service part, like the fact that we had to do service projects and that we were serving, all those things really shifted for me and kept me from potentially getting kicked out of school. So Knack, I always attribute Manny and Nu Alpha Kappa to like saving my college career.
That's insane, bro. That's so fantastic. I obviously didn't know any of that story.
I was on the wrong path. I was starting to get a little too wild, I had newfound freedom and living in the dorms and fake IDs and you know, it was like just trouble. And so, yeah, man, Knack, dry pledge shit, all that, right? It was like, this isn't what I thought fraternities were about. So it was super refreshing because it was like, you know, being around. To me, I was so attracted to the whole concept of that. You know, like 11 brothers, you know, who came together to help themselves be successful in college so that they could be the first generation in their families to finish school. You know, that was my story. That's like what I wanted for myself. I wanted to find a group of people who helped me keep myself focused so I could get through college, man. It really did that for me.
And so are you the first generation or first one in your family to go to college?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To finish. I mean, I had it. There's a couple others that have, you know,
Started.
varying successes, you know, but I was the first one with the bachelor's. And you know, and more than that, you know, for me, I think I just feel like the generational curse of you know, um, so many other things were broken kind of in my generation. So, but it was because of my pursuit for education and because of my ability to like put myself around, or not just me put myself, but God to like put me around people, you know what I mean, who really looked out for me and want the best for me.
Where did the desire for brotherhood come from? Is that because I sought it out, but because I had grown up with it, and so I already knew what I was looking for. With you being an only child or growing up an only child,
it came from the experience at Jesuit, because I had, you know, we went through this thing called Kairos, which is it's a 4-day overnight. It's like a 4-day retreat. Did you go to Catholic school?
No, I didn't, but I do know about Kairos.
You familiar with that?
Yeah,
So I went on Kairos, and you know, that creates instant brotherhood, because you get vulnerable with guys, and you know, you're sharing your life story and your weaknesses and strengths and stuff like that. You know, you're doing these building things, and invariably you create this bond. You know, and Jesuit had a lot of that, right? So I've always been drawn to that kind of connection. In high school, I had a couple different groups like that where we were just, you know, we were brothers. And then I would say, though, aside from Jesuit, I think also being an only child, you know, you definitely want siblings. It's not fun being an only child necessarily, you know. Sometimes people say, "Oh, because you get all the gifts and you get spoiled and stuff like that." That wasn't my
experience.
Nah, but I'm sure, you know. But that being said, you know, I've always been drawn to that kind of fraternal connection.
Then when it comes to Knack and race, so what is your ethnic background?
I'm half black, half white.
Okay.
So my dad's black, mom was white.
Right. And I feel like I remember your grandma coming around on campus once or twice.
Oh, you might have met grandma once. Grandma on my mom's side was white. Yeah. Yeah. And so that was she's wild. She was wild.
When you guys were pledging, who were you closest with in your pledge class?
Oh man, you unpack. Okay, so we can get into a lot. We'll come back to the diversity thing in a minute, but for me, oh man, so we had a really tight group, actually. You know, because think about it: Javi, Sunil, you know, Jose, Ruben. Like we had a really tight group. Javi and I were probably the kindred spirits of the group.
Is
because we
that
were
right?
both, yeah, we were both the like passionate kind of like, he and I think we're really close.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have
Yeah,
guessed that pairing.
Avi, me and him were close. But I've always been a lone. I don't want to say a lone wolf. I've always been fringe.
An individual.
Yeah, yeah, and it wasn't because of anything other than just me and you know, my own kind of drive. I've had because I at Santa Clara I had my Knack crew, and then I had my curbside crew,
That's right.
uh, and then I had like my Campese crew. So I was always I kind of was in multiple groups, and so I can't. I one of the things that I always look back on my college time and feel like, okay, I'm really grateful for how supportive my brothers were, despite how inconsistent I was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I wasn't the most contributing brother, especially as an underclassman. As an underclassman, once I crossed, I was at NACFest for sure, but I wasn't at every meeting. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, our active, inactive, you know, kind of scenario was a lot different than it is now. They're a lot more formal. They're a lot more, from what I can gather, they're a little more stringent, on the difference between an active or inactive brother and kind of what that looks like. But I pushed the envelope on that, because I was always doing my own thing, and it wasn't until later, like junior, senior, or after I graduated, that I actually started taking leadership roles on a national level. So on a local level at the chapter, I never held any sort of local office, or leadership role. I just made sure I was at every NAC fest.
and there's NACFest trophies to
To
prove it,
back that
right?
up,
Yeah.
for
So
sure.
I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
I was at all the meetings, but we didn't win any NACFests on my back. So
It's that I definitely, you know, it'd be interesting to hear from brothers about what they perceived of me and of our chapter at that time, because we definitely did some damage we had a squad that no matter what we were doing, soccer, football, basketball, softball, volleyball, whatever they tried to throw at us, we always could compete. So I was really, we definitely had a good group of athletes. But what I was especially proud of with our chapter is that we've always had, um, unlike myself, we always had really consistent, at least from my vantage point, guys that really held it down, both locally and nationally.
it's interesting because that's one of the things in hindsight. I feel like I learned so much after the fact with regards to Knack, and that was definitely one of the things that maybe I wasn't so keen on learning, but that other brothers taught me, and it was
Mm.
it was that, hey man, there's a lot of different ways to contribute. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to. It's because my contributions were always very tangible and could be put on a resume if you would. And there was so much more that so many other bros contributed, and in the moment I definitely don't think that I appreciated them as much
Right.
as I should have. But as a whatever, I was
Well, because
19.
you also were you were one of the workhorses though.
Yeah, and again, I was 19, 20, 21, right?
Yeah.
As a 42-year-old man, I look at things a lot differently, and it would be
Right.
not that it took me 20 years to figure that shit out, but
Right.
it probably took me a handful of years to be able to look back and be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I was not and am not very good at XYZ, and all these other bros are the ones that held it down." And when it comes down to it, it takes a village for sure. It was
Absolutely.
definitely a tribe effort.
Yeah.
It wasn't one without the other, but definitely. So when you talk about, oh, inconsistencies at meetings, it's like, yeah, well, guess what? There's so much more that goes into the success of the chapter than just the meetings, right? I mean,
Absolutely. And we've got
so
a good reputation. I think our chapter has again, as far as I could tell, and with the relationships I've had with bros outside of our chapter, like we have a good name. We kept a good name for ourselves throughout the organization
have
because
you?
of our ability to compete, but also because we're about our business. Guys graduate, guys
Yeah,
finish, guys go on and do big things. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. So, what was your major at Santa Clara?
Religious studies.
Religious studies. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you graduated, what year did you graduate?
2002. Technically, they have me in the books. I don't know, man. Santa Clara is not very good at record keeping because they've got me in the class of 2000, which is what I was supposed to be,
Supposed
right?
to be, and then
But
you had to
I
finish up.
finished in 2002.
Okay. So after Santa Clara, where'd you go?
So when we, let's see, 2003, by 2003, I was back in Sacramento. So,
And Jaden had already been born.
Jalen,
Jalen,
yeah, no,
Jalen,
yeah,
sorry.
Jalen was born 2001. We spent, I finished school 2002, and then we all moved up here by, February, March 2003, and my mother-in-law found a home, my sister-in-law moved out here, and so came back and just since I since I've been back, I've been in sales and marketing. That's been my career path, but I've been in almost lost track the number of companies I've been with. I saved all my business. I could do one wall of, I could wallpaper a wall with my business cards from all the different companies I've
What
worked for. But
what are some of the most interesting products you were selling?
yeah, so okay. Um, my probably the favorite that I sold was I was at Solar City.
Okay.
So I was selling solar. And that's been something that's always kind of like pulled me back a couple times. I actually still have my home improvement salesperson's license, so I could still sell you solar. Um, so that was really cool. While I was at Santa Clara, I had a job. It was called Teleadapt, and we sold international connectivity products. So, like, if you were an international traveler, you would need adapters to plug in for power and for your phone.
Okay.
So everything was hardwired, right? So
Yeah.
you had, and then that actually is what kind of triggered, or created my interest in technology, because we started selling cell phones and international cell phones. We started getting into, like, it started exposing me to wireless and stuff like that. I had my first Palm Pilot through that job. You know what I mean? So, like, that kind of created that, my love for technology. That job was pretty cool. Um, everything is sales, bro. Whether people want to admit it or not, everything you do is sales. But one thing that I did that was sales that people, I got because, well, my current job I got because of my sales experience, and I am selling. I'm selling workplace safety training and consultation. So, anything associated to OSHA, mobile equipment training, stuff like that. That's what I sell now. But I worked at Jesuit, my alma mater. I was the assistant admissions director
Oh,
and
okay.
the diversity director, the first diversity director. But they're, admissions is sales.
Mm-hmm.
Admissions is sales. So that was a very pricey product. Convincing people to spend 15,000 plus on a high school, a year on a high school
Yeah.
education. That was a big sale. So I've been in mortgages. Didn't really fit me well. Didn't like it at all. That didn't last very long. But yeah, I think my most interesting sale that I kind of got the most out of so far has been solar,
Yeah.
because it's a purpose driven sale.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of an easy sale because you're not really asking anybody to spend any more money than they're already spending. You're just asking them to spend less on something that they have to buy. You have to buy electricity. So like going through that process of like getting somebody to see that is exciting to me. You know what I mean? Because it was always like, you're spending this money anyway. I'm not asking you to finance a car here. You know what I mean? I'm not asking you to buy a house. I'm asking you to take the same money you're spending over here on electricity and pay for solar power instead of coal driven power. And you're going to save money. What's the problem? Like that kind of sale. I love those because it's just like, you're dumb if you don't do it. Those are my favorite types of sales.
That's
That's why
great.
that's why I love solar, because it was like, come on, man, it's good for the earth. You're going to save money. Like, what's the problem here? So I could pressure. I didn't feel bad putting pressure on people
Right.
to do something that was good for them. You know what I mean? And there's
Absolutely.
not a lot of sales. It's really not a lot of sales opportunities out there like that. So those are the kind of things I look for.
I dig it. How long have you been at the current gig?
2 years now.
Okay.
So I'm really trying to hang on to this one.
Is 2 years a pretty long time for you?
Yeah, 2
Yeah.
years. My longest stint was at Solar City, which was like 4 years. I was at Jesuit for 3.
Okay.
And then from there, it's usually around like 12 to 18 months is like my threshold.
Dang, man. That's
Or
like working in the tech industry.
it kind of is. Well, because, you know, I'm not ashamed to say that I put my family and my freedom over wealth.
Sure.
So if it ever came to like, don't get me wrong, like I want wealth, and that's why I stay in sales oriented roles. But I like the autonomy that a sales lifestyle brings me. I'm able to do coach. I'm able to be really active in my church. I'm able to not be bound to a desk to do my job. Like for instance today, right? Like 4 o'clock, take this call because I want to hook up with my bro. It's like I like to be able to have that autonomy, because that just means I got to get up early tomorrow and work a little harder to make up for, whatever I'm doing. But sales has always given me the ability to do that. And then if you think about it, everybody needs a good salesperson. Every company needs a good salesperson, a business development person, somebody willing to go out there and ask and take a no. Everybody's looking for that. So I'll always have a job. I'll always have a job. I'll always be able to make money. But I've never been one of those guys that's like, oh my God. I admire those. Like a buddy of mine I just ran into from high school. He works for the FBI. And his question was like, oh, so how close to retirement are you? Because he's got like 6 years left.
Right.
And he's like, he's plotted it out. And he's like going to retire early and stuff. I'm just like, I was never planning on retiring. I was always planning on just working and doing what I love and continuing to build legacy and build income for my family.
Yeah, we're so closely aligned on this one. Number one, I went into sales. I graduated computer engineering, but went from IBM and took a sales role with Texas Instruments immediately at a
Oh,
college,
nice.
and ran through their mini MBA program that they put on, where they only hire engineers to do sales. And so I dig all the sales stuff you're saying. And additionally,
Hmm.
when it comes to the retirement piece, I quit corporate in when I was 28, and I took 2 years off and just kind of sailed around the world, literally.
Nice.
And ever since that time, I've always talked about, it's like I'm not looking forward to retired. I'm already retired.
Mm,
It's just that yeah, I gotta work to pay some bills, but when it comes down to it, I'm retired up here.
right, right.
So and when it comes down to it, I can type for the rest of my life. Like I can
Right.
be on Zoom calls and I can give speeches. I'm not breaking my back in order to earn a living. So what is it that I need to quit doing, especially if whatever role I'm in provides that autonomy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And that's that's it's so refreshing to hear that because that's something I really believe in, man. Like we live in a new age right now. I've been telling my kids like that's why I didn't pound on my kids' heads like you have to go to college.
You don't?
It's like I'm not going to tell you something that's not true. Do I want you to go to school? Absolutely. Was it good for me? Absolutely. But I don't think you have to go to college to make money in this world. I know you don't.
And no, you
Um,
don't.
and I know that you don't need to go to college to get a good education.
Right.
There's a lot of great free resource. I can take all the same classes I took at Santa Clara. I could find them online right now and probably find
Yeah.
them for like, fractions
Right.
of what I paid. But it's more the experience and kind of like, if it's for you, if you like my third child, right? College is a good is it's something she wants because she wants to play basketball. She wants to play basketball. She's got a good opportunity to probably get maybe get college paid for, partial or full. My second child, more academically inclined, enjoys theater. Definitely looks like college is a part of their life. So but it's not for everybody. Like my son is like, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure that this is really what I want. But look at him. He's making good money. He's doing what he enjoys. It's like you don't have. So I think I'm a big proponent of sales because I figured that out a lot sooner than kind of like the new age, right? The
Yeah.
new age with technology and everything and social media and stuff. Now it's even more so true. But I found that as a salesperson, I think I identified that, hey, this is the type of lifestyle, entrepreneurial, entrepreneurial lifestyle that I think has has longevity.
Well, and the other piece is that when you have a job where you're tied to a desk, or when you're working the long hours or whatnot, and you're looking forward to that retirement, it's a matter of sacrificing all of that time when your kids are young. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like okay, I'm going to retire. It's like I worked my fingers to the bone, and now I get to retire. It's like, yeah, where are your kids at? Cats in the cradle song. so,
Don't even
so
get me started. I cry every time I hear that song.
every time, man. And so I find it very rare that you run into somebody whose children espouse them as like, oh my gosh, they were the greatest parent, except they didn't get home till 8 o'clock. They tucked us in, and then I didn't see them in the morning because they were off to work again, like
Right.
type of thing. And then they played 18 holes on the weekends and blah blah blah. It's like, hey, when you talk about that wealth and what, sure, yeah, that wealth, but that costs you something. Every
Yeah.
every time I see any sort of materialism or whatnot, it's like, oh, look at that nice picket, that second home, that super exotic car or whatever. It's like, cool. What are you willing to trade for it? What are you
Right.
willing to sacrifice for it?
Yeah.
How many ball games are you willing to miss? Because
None.
you got to be at work
Exactly.
making that payment. And
Yeah.
you're talking about, oh, I coach and I'm highly involved and I'm trying to keep my kids close. It's like, yeah, you can't. Well, and I don't know. Maybe you can. Maybe somebody can. I see it very, very challenging to pull both of those off.
Absolutely. You at some point you have to decide, and I think you make such a great point. One of the things that sticks out to me was when I saw a quote from Steve Jobs talking about how, he had wished, because it was in his last days, he said, he had essentially said, I'm so proud of all my accomplishments, but I trade all of them for more time with my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
And you see it time and time and time again, where legends, people who do legendary things.
Yeah.
It's like they're super proud of their accomplishments, but they always come back to like, oh man, I wish I'd been around my kids more. And so I never wanted to miss a ball game.
Yeah.
Never wanted to miss a play. Never wanted to miss, man, I don't want to miss practice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I want to be there for everything. I mean, so I definitely don't regret making that personal decision, that if I had to pick, I was going to always pick my family and put them first, like, because I want to stay active and I don't want to be that guy, that's on his deathbed and wishing he had a close relationship with his kids, or that his kids knew him, or that he'd spent more time with them,
Yeah. I feel like that the Cats in the Cradle song should be required listening for everybody, at least, once a year, every Father's Day.
Right. Yeah, like a nice little reminder, like, hey man,
like you got to keep your story straight, man.
They're growing up fast. They grow up so fast too,
Yeah.
Next
yeah, absolutely.
Driving, I got 3 drivers.
So we're coming up on the hour, and I want to be super respectful of your time.
Yeah, don't trip.
Okay, I don't know if you've got a hard stop or not.
No, I don't.
Okay, cool. Well, then I've got a couple more things for us.
Okay.
First off, tell me about on your email it says minister. Talk to me about that, because I've been called minister a number of times, and that so I understand a little bit of that label, but
so I was reluctant to take on that title. I'll tell you that much, a little, because I've gotten no quote unquote, formal ordination or formal.
You don't have a master's in divinity or anything like that?
No, none of that. I got my bachelor's in religious studies. I mean, that's something. That's something. But I've been very active in my local church.
What kind of church is this? Because you came up through the Jesuits and the Catholics.
Catholics, yeah. So it's actually a Assemblies of God church denomination, which is like, let's just Protestant Pentecostal. Sure. And it's a very spirit-filled, spirit-driven church.
Is that, would they call that charismatic?
I think I always associate charismatic with like the very extreme Pentecostal side, where it's like yielding snakes and
right
kind of thing. Like, and it's not that quote unquote extreme, but and with all due respect to folks who do that, like I don't want to knock their hustle, but no, it's definitely a concept that this God is still working, right? Like,
sure,
that the Spirit is still moving, and that we are called to the same divine calling as they were at the time that Jesus was walking, right? Like we could see the same miracles today. I think that's the basis of kind of the Pentecostal charismatic movement, right? Is that the Spirit is still at work. And so I've been real active in this. Our church is very, it's almost got a non-denominational feel to it, in that we're very accepting, and it's not like we're like super bound to certain dogmatics, but it's diverse. I'm attracted to diversity.
Sure.
And I'm attracted to like authenticity. And so that's what's kept me here at this church that I'm at.
How long have you been there?
Since 2009.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
Yeah, I've been there since 2009. And I've been, as I mentioned earlier, I've always been like an altar boy of sorts.
Sure.
Like I like to serve. And so I was involved in children's ministry. Then I was involved in like media ministry, just helping make sure that like, and then when the pandemic hit, I had decided I would step up, and I just felt God calling me to use all my talents for Him in the pandemic, because our church was struggling with technology. We don't have a lot of people that are tech savvy, and so I stepped up to kind of help make sure that our live stream could could function weekly for Bible study and Sunday service, and then eventually my pastor trusted me to to give a sermon to speak, and so I've done a couple of sermons and kind of built a somewhat of a reputation within our church as a minister.
As
And
a
so
leader.
people started calling me Minister Allan, Minister Darte, Minister Allan, Pastor Darte. And it was like, I didn't really want to embrace it because, like I said, I've not done any formal ordination, but someone in the church told me, hey, like, it's not about what some organization labels you. Like, if the people
If you're
that
walking
you
the
serve,
walk.
exactly, if they see you that way and they put that title on you, then embrace it. So I
That's
went ahead and put it on my email.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. I've been involved with a lot of churches and big and small,
Mhm.
from just gatherings in a old bottle recyclery in Costa Rica and India
Wow.
to the 5,000 person mega churches in Dallas
Mhm.
and Chicago and the likes. And but the minister part came. I've been involved in a couple, probably about four small black churches, and I
Mhm.
feel like the black churches are definitely the ones where they do a lot of the labels and the titles
Yeah.
and the minister and the that type stuff. And when they tried to put that on me, I'm like, nope.
Not me, huh?
I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
uh,
it's almost like a term of endearment they put like it, so it was a they were paying you respect for the work you did though
yeah,
too, in that way.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, once you start carrying that title, it's like, well, you can't, that's not to be taken lightly.
Not at all.
No
No,
letter wearers.
no, exactly,
No letter
right? You
wearers.
can't you can't be inconsistent on that one, buddy. You better be like really about it. And so
Is
if
your
there's
is
mhm.
I was just gonna say, is your organization, is it a big organization or is it pretty
Assemblies of God, it as
well?
a
Just, I
it's a
guess, just
big
your
one,
your
but
parish.
our church is small. We've got we're like 100 or less members
Yeah,
officially,
yeah,
but we probably got about 30 to 40 kind of consistent
yeah,
members.
yeah, yeah. I
So we're
dig it.
we're small. I like that. I like it better that
Yeah,
way. I like because like I've been a part of varying sizes.
yeah. I've seen it all, man, and I've heard, it's like once you start getting into those larger organizations, all of a sudden it becomes a corporation. It
It's
becomes
definitely a
a
business.
Yeah,
And more power to them. I think one thing I love about the mega church is the mega church, kind of methodology is that it does keep a large number of people, you know, in touch with God. Like at least he's in touch. Like he's accessible.
yeah,
You can plug there. It makes it convenient to plug in and kind of like. And I found that there still can be rich experiences in those churches. You just have to be in a small group.
yeah,
You have to find a good small group. If you find a really good small group, then mega churches are fine because they're just
absolutely.
little mini churches within the mega church, and so you have the support to do and attract new people. Because I know
Yeah,
for us, like it was important to to have things for children's ministries, right? So if I went to a church, like our church doesn't really have much at this point, you wouldn't call it a robust children's ministry, right? So it was always easier to take my kids to a place where I knew they could go play and they're not going to be calling me in 10 minutes to come get them out because they're bored. You know what I'm saying? So those things I can understand,
Yeah.
that we got to take those into consideration. But I think if we're going to get back to, I use the Acts 2 church kind of as a model.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if we're going to, and I'm not big on going back, I'm more about going forward. But if I were to look at a model for what God's looking for in us as a people, it was more the Acts 2 type churches,
Sure.
Going from home to home, preaching the gospel, making sure everybody's taken care of, meeting the needs of the widows and orphans.
Love it. Love it. Is your family as involved as you are, or is that kind of your thing?
It's definitely my thing, but my son, he serves every weekend with me.
Okay.
He does the media stuff with me. He takes care of our sound. He's I don't consider him to be, he's not, I don't think he would tell you that he's walking with the Lord in the same way that say I am, or that
sure.
Some of my, the more traditional kind of way that folks might consider it. He's still figuring things out, his own worldview out, which is cool.
Yeah.
But what I really appreciate about him is he saw that we needed help. He stepped up despite his own his own spiritual beliefs, and he's getting that word every weekend, so that's cool. My two middle children are, less Christian inclined and more spiritual inclined.
Sure.
They have a lot of sour feelings about the way that Christians treat people.
Or organized. I'm not a fan of the institution and the organization.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's like when you talk about the underlying teachings and the methodology, it's like absolutely for sure. But then once you get imperfect people involved, then it becomes imperfect, and it's like there's a whole lot of fixing inconsistencies and the likes. So I never blame anybody who looks at it and says, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think there's that famous Gandhi quote, I like your Christ, I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's sad but true.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we raised our kids, was like, again, same thing. We're not forced. It's your own personal relationship with God. And I'd be a hypocrite if I told you, like, oh, do it like I'm doing it, because I'm not doing it perfectly. You know what I'm saying? Like,
for sure.
And I wouldn't want them to base the hardest thing is that, like, unfortunately, we have to learn and base our faith relationship off of the examples that are set around us.
Right.
So if I'm sitting here trying to say, hey, I wish you guys would read your Bible and be Christian, but I'm always mad and I'm always bitter and I'm always angry, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, when you're hitting them with the Bible.
Yeah, it's like, why would they want to be have a personal relationship with Christ if they don't see the fruits of the Spirit in that person? And I think that's what we taught our kids that it's a personal relationship. It's between you and the Creator. You'll figure it out. But that's all I want.
Yeah.
I just want you to pursue that. And then you'll find a community that makes sense to you. And I know that I'm confident that what the Bible says is true, that there is only one way to God, and that's through Jesus Christ. But I think it's been bludgeoned, beaten over people's head in such a way that it's been misconstrued as kind of like a have to rather than a get to.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And so eventually people, with my kids, my philosophy has been like, rather than telling him like, oh, the only way. It's more like, eventually you're going to figure out that you're going to land back at this question, and he's going to be at the center of it, and you're going to have to answer this question for yourself. And so that's kind of been my mission with him.
Yeah, everybody's got their path, and whenever it was that that I made a decision or that you made a decision, it's like it doesn't matter. Everybody's on their path, and if you make it when you're 55 or when you're 105 or when you're 5, whatever it is, it's like that it has nothing to do with me. It's not my job to go out and quote unquote save anybody, right? I can't save anybody.
Yeah.
It's that's God's job. My job is to be here and play my role, support,
That's it.
love, be an ambassador.
Be the hands and feet. I think
That's right.
People misconstrue discipleship for like, oh, I got to tell people how to do it, when it's really like it's walking with people while you do it.
Yeah.
That's what disciples.
The same way that folks walked with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was busy making whatever bad decisions and bad mistakes and whatever, there were people walking with me, and they continued to walk with me, and they, and they'd being a link in the chain, and the whole deal, all in love, all in absolute love. I mean, that's right. where I
Sounds
think
like you had some good, loving people around you.
I absolutely did. Absolutely. No doubt about
awesome,
that.
man.
No doubt about that. All right, I got a couple fun questions that I ask everybody. Here's a new one. What's some of the best advice you were ever given?
Best advice I was ever given. This is a little, so it's fun, but it's kind of a deep personal spin. I would say it was to stay. So I was going through a tough time in my marriage. I had made, so that's a whole nother podcast. But I had a mentor at the time, Sam Starks, man, great dude. And he was like, I don't care what you got to do. If you got to sleep on the couch or you got to sleep on the floor in the garage, like, don't leave. Like, that's your home. You fight for your home. You stand, you stay, like, no matter what, no matter what. And so to me, that advice was so crucial because, marriage is struggle. People, numbers don't lie,
Yeah, 50%.
They say 50% of marriages end in divorce. And so, that advice of that one word of just stay was the best advice, because a marriage requires work. A marriage requires a willingness to sacrifice, a willingness to compromise, a willingness to, forgive and be forgiven. Like, it's complicated, but if you can just stay, it's worth it. It's really worth it.
Proximity is the first step, man. You got to be around you got to suit up and show up. So
suit up and show up.
Yeah, no, I love that. Stay. So I'll tell you a quick piece with regards to the 50%. I was living in Tampa, and going through my divorce. I got divorced. Like, I got married and divorced. I think it was 25, 26. And Mario Urk was out there at a conference or something in Tampa, and I was living out there. And so I went and I picked him up, and we were having dinner, and I had to tell him. I was like, oh, well, so, and his response was, he's like, yeah, well, it's going to happen to half of us. So, and it broke my heart, bro. He said that, and I like melted. I'm like, oh God, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy.
Anybody,
And to think that it's going to happen to half of us, half of the bros, it was like, oh man. And so I told that story. I can't remember who I told that story to, and it got back to Urquia, and he's like, bro, I didn't know what to say, man. He dropped that bomb on me, and then I was like, oh, that's the only thing I think of. It's going to happen to both of us, or it's going to happen. If
it's any consolation.
I'm like, oh God, this is horrible.
But it's it's sad but true, man. And,
yeah. So, well, good on you. I mean, 20 years, not that anybody's ever out of the woods, but I mean, 20 years, that's a good, that you're on the right path, man.
Yeah, man. Well, they say, I think we, the common goal of, a having a pure relationship, having a strong relationship, having common interests outside of just the children, you know.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, I really do look up to my wife. She's a rock star. Like, I call her the white Harriet Tubman. She literally like saves people, bro. Like, her job right now, she works. Her passion is to help children who are commercially sexually exploited, so who are sex
Jeez.
trafficked. So like, she's been a part of. Even helping one person out of
Right.
a situation like that is something to be like proud of, right? But like, to help 10, 20, 30 people out of that scenario and have relationships like that is just like mind boggling. So
I see
she's
why you
currently
call her the
doing
white
that.
Harriet Tubman. That
Yeah,
makes
man, she's like
that's
literally,
legit.
saving people from slavery, and she does it so gracefully. And now she's involved in, working with the system, so she's not just boots on the ground, right? So my point in bringing that up is like the fact that we both look at each other and kind of in awe, like we look up to each other for the work ethic. Like, there's never been a situation if anything, she works way harder than me. Like, I feel guilty half the time. Like, dang, how you staying up doing all that? Like, I'm knocked out. She's still doing something. And so I always have to push myself to try to, like, I actually had for a while, honestly, it was like I started developing a complex. I had to be like, okay, I'm not her. So like, I gotta know my limitations. But I think that's helped in our relationship, is that we both have a healthy respect for the other person and what they
Well,
stand
well,
for.
I feel like it's far more than just a healthy respect, right? I mean, it's that being each other's number one fans.
Yep.
It's like
Yep.
that's and I feel it. I feel it when you talk about her, and I'm sure she feels the same way about you. And that is beautiful, bro. Like
It
that's
is.
that's the kind of relationship goals to aspire to. It's like I want to I'm and I tell my wife all the time. She'll ask me, "Hey, you want to go do this? You want to go do that?" And my response is always the same, and she always knows. I was like, I will follow you anywhere. I
Yeah.
will. I give a damn. You're going. I'm
Yeah.
sure that's where I'm going. I don't. I
Wherever
don't.
you at, I'm at.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. I'm your number one fan. So that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So I love the advice. Okay, here's top five artists.
Top five artists.
It can be music, it can be acting, it can be a mix of all of it.
Yeah. Top five artists. I gotta process this one for a second. Um, all right, I'm gonna start with one that's like not well known, but that people should know about. It's this young man named Aha Gazelle. He's a hip hop artist. He's in like the quote unquote gospel rap
Okay.
kind of section.
Okay.
Aha Gazelle. He's awesome. Um, okay. My daughter, Imani, mark my
Love
words.
it.
She's going to have, like, we're already talking about trying to set her up with NFTs and stuff. Like, she's a little artist and she's tons of creativity.
What's her
Um,
medium? Does she sing? Does she draw? Does she
drawing,
okay.
drawing, right now. And like, we got her an iPad, which, not wasn't necessarily like my favorite idea, but then, she loves it. She uses the iPad
Apple
art thing.
Pencil.
She's like,
Yeah.
she's got skills, man. It's crazy. So, okay, I'm gonna put my daughter in this. I really do believe one day she's going to be a well-known, like, Picasso level type artist. Um, let's see, another big artist. Um, so I'm a hip hop fan mostly. So most of my artists are probably going to be in that genre. I would say Tupac
Nice.
is definitely a top five artist because he transcended hip hop, but he kept it, you know, he kept the social justice and he
Yep.
kept the fight first. He was kind of like the epitome of, like Malcolm X and Dr. King and like all that mouthpiece all in one.
Hmm.
I feel like even though he was very thuggish, I think he really understood his role as an artist, and as a person, speaking for a culture. So I have to put him up there for sure. Top 5. Let's not
Two,
make it
two
too long.
more.
Two more artists. I want to be diverse. I would say I'm going back and forth between Led Zeppelin and the Doors.
Nice.
I would have to put like
You can have them
I would have
both.
to, well, because I got to leave room, so I'm gonna pick one. I would pick Jim Morrison
Okay.
from the Doors because just man, you don't even have to say much about him.
Yeah,
But
man.
that piece of that body of work, Rider on the Storm, like just the way that he spoke through his poetry on the topics that he was speaking of is actually really deep. I just put my son onto that one. And then last but not least, Bob Marley.
There you go. There you
Bob
go.
Marley for sure. Paved the way for, a new culture.
I dig it. I dig
awesome.
it. Five dinner guests, dead or alive.
5 dinner guests dead or alive. I could do that one more quickly. Of course, Jesus.
There you go.
Martin Luther King
Nice.
Jr. Tupac.
There you go.
I would say my mom.
Nice.
And I would say someone from like maybe like Abraham Lincoln or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because some of that old American, I'd want to meet an old American politician and see what they thought about the world as it is today.
That'd be a hell of an interesting conversation for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. All right. Last question. Who should we get on the podcast next? And you got to help me get them.
Next? Are you just, or is it just Santa Clara Bros?
No. So I'm just starting with Santa Clara Bros, but for sure branching out as
well. Branching out. I think there's 2 different bros I would recommend. Both of them are SoCal brothers. And they're both from UC Santa Barbara. Arturo Olivas.
Yep.
Or Adam Ruiz.
God, I don't think I know Adam.
Adam Ruiz was in this. He crossed around the same time I did. We were like tight. We were like, we had our own little adapted handshake and stuff. You know what I'm saying? We was crossing around the same time. It was like we were line brothers, but different,
Yeah.
And we made a lot of trips. Santa Clara and Santa Barbara back in the day always had like a cool little connection.
That's great, bro. You're gonna have to help me find.
I'll get you connected. Adam Ruiz is he and I haven't talked in years, but I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I know I could get you in touch with both of them.
Absolutely.
But Adam would be cool because he's kind of doing some political things. He's a real estate agent. I think he ran for like some sort of county office his last term. And Arturo, he's just always been a mover and a shaker.
That's right. So last one. What's next? What are you looking forward to in 2022? This pandemic has to end sooner or later. So,
well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's not.
It's never gonna end.
Nah, it is, but so my role right now is with the company called Safety Center. I told you I was selling, I'm in the workplace safety business. Sure. We had a guest speaker at an event recently, and he's actually works for NIOSH, which is the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, Occupational Safety and Health. It's basically like the national kind of government division of OSHA, the governing body of OSHA. level above them. He called it pandemic normal. It's like, what do you call it? Paranormal or pan-normal?
Sure.
Like we got to get, like, it's not going anywhere for a
Yeah.
couple of years, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think when we talk about what's next, for me personally and professionally, it's, you know, hunkering down and continuing to navigate this thing, you know, as best as I can. I've got a great role at my current company.
Yeah.
So I don't plan on going anywhere from there soon. Actually, I want to be a leader here. So what's next for me is to kind of move more into a leadership role, expand my role, and eventually lead my department. And then, you know, also ministry, you know, I definitely feel like God is calling me to something new. I just don't know what that looks like quite yet. I've got some idea, and I want to think I do, but you know, man comes up with these plans, but you know, the Lord directs his steps. So
I know all about it.
So I'm trying not to be too prideful. Like I know, but I just sense that he's wanting me to branch out and do more from it, you know, like one of my favorite scriptures is, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of his testimony. And so I feel like God's calling me to speak more, to share my story more, to put myself out there more, rather than doing more of the behind the scenes stuff that I've always been kind of used to doing.
Well, that fits perfectly in line with you coming on today and sharing your story, brother. I mean, we weren't extremely close when we were undergrads or whatnot, but God, I absolutely enjoyed and have benefited greatly from just hearing your walk, man, and I look forward to staying in closer touch and continuing to you know, I'm my wife's number one fan, but I'll be a fan from a distance with you just the same, brother.
I appreciate that, and I'm proud of you for getting this going, dude. This is really a long time coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if you ever need any help, let me know.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Be more than happy to take a week off your shoulders if you need a step in host. I can't do it as good as you, but if you ever, you know, if as you expand, as you do these kind of things, man, let me know. But I'm grateful for you.
Absolutely, man. Definitely check out. I dropped my interview with Lisandro this morning, so definitely check out that, man, because he's actually one of the ones that shouted you out. So
I appreciate that.
Check that out. Kid. Yeah, man, he's doing big things just the same. Well, I appreciate your time, man. We went over a bit, but I absolutely appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
No doubt. Appreciate you, brother.
Okay. Peace, bro.
All right. Peace.
Until next time, bros. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.